woman created this. Black woman created this. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Sundays with a Cherry on Top. I am your host, Cherry. I missed you guys. You know how I like to have my seasons really short and sweet. And I take a little break because that, Bijan and I are doing so much outside of this. And so I like to give us a little break. But welcome back to my first episode of this new season. Hey, and it's on Pride. Happy Pride, everybody. Me and my girl, you see my girl, she's celebrating. She's out there being an ally. Yes, hello. Anyway, I just welcome back. And I just want to give a shout out to Marsha P. Johnson, because if it wasn't for her, we wouldn't have no Pride, okay? I know some people like to say otherwise, but listen, okay, Marsha P. was out there making change. And so if you guys want to learn more about Marsha P., you can check out the Marsha P. Johnson Institute online. That's the name. You type it in, the website will pop up. You will learn so much about her. And I learned so much just by going on. I knew of her, but just learning even more about the woman. You can go to Marsha P. Institute online and learn some more of that. Also, since we've been gone, anyway, we've had our elections. Our elections have happened, and we don't have all of the results yet. The Board of Elections are still receiving absentee ballots, and they'll start counting those, and we'll get more information then. It was a little low turnout. I'm not gonna say nothing about that because it's not that kind of show. But I'm just saying. Anyway, but so far right now, Eric Adams, Maya Wiley, Catherine Garcia are the top three. Maya Wiley is inching closer to Eric Adams for what I see. This is as of yesterday, but they're still waiting votes. There's only 83% of the votes in. So we won't know for at least another week. And the comptroller, same thing. Brad Lander and Corey Johnson are the top two. Public advocate Jumaane Williams, he's a public advocate now. They're projecting him to win because he's just, I think, he's just thousands and thousands of votes ahead. But they're still, 83% and 84% of his votes are still in, but they're projecting him to be the winner. And the DA, 83% of that is in. That's Alvin Bragg and Tali Weinstein. Alvin Bragg is leading. So again, we won't know. And for the borough president, Mark Levine and Brad Holyman, again, 83% of the votes. The absentee ballots are coming in as they're counting them. And they said it's going to be another week as on the website. So you guys can go to your New York City voting website for your district, for your area. Same thing. I'm in District 3, and they're giving me all the information there. And our city council they're still waiting for who's going to be our city council for District 3. And then I want to give a special shout out to Tiffany Caban. She's in Queens District. She ran last year, and she didn't win. She's projected to win for the District 22 in the Bronx. She is a progressive like AOC, and then it's going to be AOC and her. The Bronx, everybody's cheering, everybody's happy. And there's like 90% of her votes are in, so they're projecting her. So that's it. So guys, I just want to tell you guys now on to my next guest, my first guest of the season, Germono Toussaint. You know how I like to start each episode with a fun fact about my guest. So a fun fact about Germono is that he's an ordained pastor. Got ordained when he was like 19. Okay, hallelujah, yes. And he is and still was and still is. I'm going to say was and is because we'll find out more in the interview. Artistic director, founder of A Mile in My Shoes, which is his own production company. Executive producer of the Fire This Time festival. So at the Apollo, we're working with the individual giving at the Apollo. Just wear many, many hats. And so, we'll talk about that. A playwright. There's so many things about Germono that I learned over the years, and also to researching him, getting ready for this interview. And so I'm really excited to bring him on. So for those who are watching, Let's all give him let's all bring Germono on and we'll start this interview. We'll get it popping. Yes.
Hey, Sherry.
Hey, honey.
How's it going?
It's going good. Welcome. Happy Pride. Yes.
Happy Pride. Yes. Yes. I'm still recovering.
Okay.
But happy Pride continues, whether I'm ready or not.
Okay, Pride's going to continue for a couple of weeks for some people.
Yeah, yeah. I'm going to Chicago next week.
So, okay, so you still gonna be bringing it on. It's so hard.
I'm back in a wheelchair. Oh. But you know, it's what we do.
Oh my goodness, what's in Chicago? May I ask? I think
Black Pride is around the 4th every year.
Okay, yeah. And
it's so great. It's like completely different from New York, and you know, it's like community center. People are grilling. There's music. You know, it's like that type of thing. It's like a big cookout.
Shoot, I might want to come with you.
Yeah, you should come down.
I've never been to a Chicago Pride, so I like to be around the grill and just be around happy Black people. You know, I just the Black love and the Black excellence and everybody just having a good time. So.
Yeah, I miss it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So you know, I like to start each interview with a check-in, but that seemed like that's a good check-in. Like you're going to Chicago. Anything else? Because you know, we're just coming off these elections. We're still in a pandemic. I think some people think that we're not. I don't know. We don't know what's going on with that. But how are you holding up with everything? Where are you today?
Oh, it's so weird. I was talking to my friend about this. So I'm in a really good place.
Oh, good.
Which is interesting because I am working, you know, for myself right now. Mm-hmm. I'm living alone right now.
Oh, me too. I live alone.
Yes, isn't it beautiful?
I love it.
I feel like I'm an actual grown person now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear you.
So hopefully that lasts. It will last. But yeah, I finished. I wrote a musical. I polished off a play. You know, I produced so much stuff, like not being at work.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and I don't want to curse any of my work experience, but it's like, wow. 8 hours out of my day.
Yeah.
And this is what I could have done, you know.
I mean, that's real. Yeah. That's real. So, I mean, gosh, you said you wrote a musical and a play during this time.
And the album.
And the album. Yeah, the album. We're going to talk about that later too. There's so much you were doing. I mean, like, yeah. So this is going to be very inspirational because, you know, there was, you know, just to do all of that during this time in a difficult time, but finding ways to be inspired, going inside of self, and really just still honing your craft is what people need to hear and what people need to know, that you can still, despite what's happening out here, you can go inside and really, you know, get out what's going on in there, you know. Yeah.
So, but I have to be careful how I word it because some people, this was the worst year of their life, you know.
Amen. That's real too. Everybody's had different experiences. Yeah.
So I want to be mindful of that, the other side of this, but I am in a very different place than I've ever been.
Oh, I love that.
I've been working since I was 13 years old, and I had 1 year off.
Wow.
So I was like,
wow.
I'm riding this thing
until the wheels fall. Like, yeah, right. Till the wheels fall off. So like now, there's so many questions I have to ask off of what you just said, because you're saying that you started working when you were 13. Now, was that when you worked? What job was that? Was that in the artistic, or was it just like working at the local grocery store, or like what kind of work were you doing?
Yeah, so I've always done two types of work. It's always been nonprofit and then my art. So I've always done, like, I think I directed my first choir when I was in high school.
Wow.
So like, there's always been like a music director, musician thing that I've done on the side. Like I taught music for a few years. But like, there's always, to pay the bills, it's always been this nonprofit thing. And like, shout out to my mom for getting me in the system real early. Well, I was not supposed to be working at 13. Legally, I
mean, amen. I mean, that's why I'm like, what were you doing at 13?
Yeah. So I was at Salvation Army.
Wow.
And then there was like a Head Start program. So I started doing like at the library, and then like all this, like I was working for the city, and there's like all that. That's why I have like a lot of like administrative business fundraising chops, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. It makes sense now. It makes sense because, you know, being at a huge, powerful, historic entity like the Apollo.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's kind of like, okay, it makes sense that you started, you know, how you started at 13 and ended up at one of the greatest theaters in history.
I want to say so many things about that because like, you know, Billy Mitchell, Mr. Apollo, they call him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he told me, he's like, people fall in love with this place to the point that they never leave. And he's like, don't become that person.
Wow.
But I literally, oh my God, I can't even describe to you the feeling that I got just walking across the stage, like just to go to meetings, or whatever. And people just walk, you know, go to meetings, whatever. But I was like, every single day for 3.5 years, it's like, James Brown stood here. Yeah. You know, Gladys was over here, Aretha. I'm like, this is like a sacred ground. It's like, I won't say sacred burial ground, but
I mean, I know what you mean, because because you know, before pandemic, I was doing these interviews in person, and one of the interviews I have was at the Apollo with Camila, and I remember walking across the stage, and I had never been on the Apollo stage, and I was just like, this is so emotional, because you feel all the grace. I feel like they leave a piece of their spirit in the room or on the stage somewhere, because you just feel it. Right. So I know what you mean when you're like, when you say ancestors, or feel it, because it's like there's a part of them that's still there. And so, no, I understand that. And so it sounds like he gave you the best of advice, because he said, don't fall in love with it too hard, because then you won't leave. And now you're doing amazing other things. Yeah.
Yeah. It's in the place, the spirit, the energy is still there. I always tell people when I used to give tours, I would stand them in the wings, like when people, and I'm like, just stand here and tell me what you feel. And every single person's like, oh my God, why am I nervous right now? Like, why I have so much anxiety? I'm like, because that energy of like hundreds or thousands of people is still in that spot. Like, I believe in that stuff.
Yeah, me too. I totally do. So before, I mean, we're in the interview, but we're not in it yet, but we're in it. But
I'm ready.
A question I wanted to ask you, and I brought it up in the fun facts, is that being an ordained pastor, where did that come from? How did that happen? You at 19?
I want to correct that.
Okay, correct that, please. If I'm wrong, please correct me, please.
Ordained minister. I was a minister.
Okay, ordained minister. Okay, yes. Tell me about that journey. I think that's amazing too.
Yeah, I don't know how far back to go. So I'll just say, I was my mom was church hopped, and I know I'm gonna get it when I get back home, because I've been talking about this a lot. But she did. She church. I was raised Lutheran. Had to go to a Lutheran church, like in order to get like tuition assistance and all that stuff. So we had to be in church on Sunday. But my mom would sneak away to go to get what she really needed. Oh. And she was church hopping for like years, and she finally landed on this couple from Tulsa, Oklahoma. That were sent to Milwaukee to start a church by Bishop Carlton Pearson. Some people know. There's a movie out about him called Come Sunday. So I was asked to come and just visit one of their prayer services that they had in their apartment. And they were like really bubbly and happy. And I was like, who are these people? Like, just happy for no reason. And of course, my mom ended up telling them that I play piano. And she's like, oh, Lord. Oh, he's showing me something right now. Oh, Lord. Oh, I see it. I'm like, really? You don't have to, like, not rocket science. Obviously, you're gonna ask me to play. So I would play for the prayer service, and and then so like when they started having church service in a hotel, I would play for the services, and eventually they wanted a praise team, so I got the praise team together. I was a voice major at the time, so it was like a good fit, because they were a little tone deaf. But so I got them together, like singing in harmony and like on time, and got a drummer and like the whole thing. And then I started to like actually, my spiritual maturity actually blossomed then, because I wasn't getting that in the Lutheran church. I didn't know anything about any of that. It was just like the service was, you stand up, you sit down, you read a hymn, you listen to the sermon, you sit down again, stand up, sit down, kneel, But like I started to feel something and hear things, like I actually heard God talking to me, or what I believed was God, whether inside of myself or outside of myself. And that changed me, and I started to minister while I was leading praise and worship and all of this stuff. So I think that spiritual growth and maturity caused them to, want to ordain me. Because I wasn't trying to get ordained. Because I didn't plan on being there, the rest of my life. But eventually, I think I convinced myself, like, this is probably what I'm going to end up doing.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Which was good and bad.
Yeah.
Because, like, I threw away a lot of my old other dreams. I was like, well, this is probably what I'm good at. This is what I'll do. Because I was, and this is going to sound like bragging, but, it's an interview.
Listen, come on, brag. It's your interview. You better brag. You better, brag.
The whole ushering people into the spirit thing, I was eerily good at. Because I wasn't coming from it in a traditional sense. It was like I was worshiping, I was connecting with God, and if people wanted to come with me, they could. I wasn't good at the raise your hands, talk to your neighbor, get into the sand. I wasn't good at that. Like, I'm not that animated, and I couldn't fake it.
Yeah.
So it was like I would go in, and there would be services where people would just be laid out, and there would be no sermon because it would be that heavy. And it was just an interesting thing to experience and navigate because it was new to me. And that became like my happy place. It didn't feel right for me to be doing it on stage. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
I'm like, why people, it didn't feel right to be a performative part of a service. Like the worship was very personal.
Yeah, it's a very vulnerable thing.
Yeah. So to be on stage leading people to something that's very personal between you and spirit or you and God felt awkward, but I think because I approached it that way, it was more effective for the services. I forgot your question.
No, that's right. No, this is good. This is good. This is good. This is a good segue because you did music, leading the worship, and then go, with you being an arranger, producer, and the love of music. How did music find its way? Like, it sounds like music came before being ordained.
Yeah. So
where did the love of music come from? Did you grow up in a singing household? Was your mother walking around house singing? How did the music get in you? Or were you born with it, as they say?
So if you can't sing and you're in my family, you're probably not blood. You probably were adopted. So everybody can sing. Everybody, even the ones that are like, I can't sing, can sing. Yeah. So when I was in the crib, the story is that my mom and my uncles and stuff would like sing in 4-part harmony, like doo-wop songs and stuff. And I think that opened my ears, in addition to just having that like genetic musical gift. Like everyone sings, but my aunt used to play the piano. My grandfather played piano and guitar. I have Donald Daniels is my cousin. He wrote a lot of Motown songs. So it's in the family. Yeah,
it's in the blood.
Strangely, I found out Eric Benet is like a distant cousin. I'm like,
really?
No, y'all didn't tell me. Y'all weren't gonna tell me.
Yes, Eric Benet. Yes.
No, I'm going to Atlanta to like berate my cousin because I'm like, y'all for real, y'all playing.
Yeah.
I just found that out. But anyway,
now that you just found this out, you gonna follow that lead and like you guys gonna compose something together maybe.
Well, if I can get a hope, because to him it's like I'm just a random person saying, "Hey, I'm your cousin," So he's like, everyone's my cousin every other week. So it's that trying to make that connection. But one day.
Yeah, it'll happen. You're putting it out there. Yeah.
Putting it out there in the universe,
Yeah, it's going to happen. And then I'm going to play back the snippet. I'm going to say, see, we talked about this.
Yes.
How many months ago, how many years ago? We talked about Eric Benet and all of that. That's amazing.
I'm going to produce his album. I'm putting it out there in the universe.
Okay, put it out there. You're going to produce his next album. Eric Benet, if you're watching this and when you watch this later, this is your next producer of your album. Okay, amen.
Yeah, your cousin.
Oh, yeah, and your cousin. It's going to be called Keeping It in the Family.
Yes.
So besides the music and the producing and all that, you are part of the Gatekeepers Collective. And I know we've been on this pandemic. We've been, a lot of things have not been happening. but I saw that you guys are just starting up your resiliency enhancement dialogues again. You just had one pass, and I really found this interesting because it's something I didn't know about. So I wanted to ask you, because you're on the board, right? And is that correct? Yes. Mm-hmm. And so for people who don't know, what this Gatekeepers Collective is, John Martin Green, yes. He's part of the family. He's part of this. So I know it's coming from, a genuine, beautiful place. What can you tell us about this, and why is this important for you to be a part of this, and why, and coming out of the pandemic, where are you guys going with this?
Yeah, so John Martin Green is the executive director. So mm-hmm. It's the Resiliency Enhancement Network for mm-hmm. SGL, or same gender loving African American men. Mm-hmm. So the core of the programming are these what we call REDS, Resiliency Enhancement Dialogues, where we talk about mm-hmm. things like colorism or intersectionality, like spirituality, religion, like how does that affect how you view yourself as a same gender loving person, like those types of things. And it's been really, like, I've seen people grow mm-hmm. from those dialogues, and I've seen people break down, and I've seen people cry, and I've seen people like connect with one another. It's really been beautiful. And it's something that I wish more people that don't have a community or sense mm-hmm. of community within that demographic would know about and become participants in, because I think outside of going out and being in events, we need that grounding, community-centered healing network. It's been life-changing. Me meeting Dr. Green has been life-changing.
And then give me one as it comes to you, like off the top of your head, how has it changed you?
Well, the term gatekeeper was coined by Malidoma Somé. He's a West African shaman. Mm-hmm. And he talks about this concept of gatekeepers in his village in Burkina Faso being people that, the way I say it is, they have one foot in the physical world, one foot in the spirit world, but they are mm-hmm. the ones that facilitate others accepting and utilizing their own gifts. And they're the mediators in the community, and they're many times the leaders or spiritual leaders. Mm-hmm. In his village, they're like the shaman and the witches, but many of them are same gender loving.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But that goes way, I mean, the more Dr. Green introduced me to that concept. Yeah. And then I started to study on my own, and I realized like almost all indigenous cultures had that. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That place for queer, what we call queer or SGL or trans or whatever, mm-hmm. People, where they were like the spiritual leaders or the shaman or the mediators or, in every indigenous culture. And then, what happened.
I mean,
but it was flipped on its head. Like homophobia was introduced to Africa and other cultures from Europe, from the Christian European mm-hmm. movement.
Yeah. And so when you say that you want more people to be involved, meaning people can come, it's a safe space where people can come and talk about their experiences in a safe environment and then find that support.
Yeah. So it's specific to SGL men. Mm-hmm. This particular organization is, mm-hmm. But they can come to the resilience enhancement talks. We're now in person in Harlem.
Oh, nice. So you guys are back in person. Well, this is the video. That's the next question, but we, but you want to take that down. I wanted to take that down. Yeah. Okay, we're going. But that's the next one. In 2 seconds, finish this one up. I do want to say that it's live. You go with the live because it's interesting because we're talking about the Gatekeepers Collective, which is why I want to get into the Gatekeeper the musical, because I'm like, is there the correlation? But you were saying that it's a place for men to come and have a safe space and talk about things that they need to talk about, and they're in person again.
Yeah, and the term gatekeeper comes from the same place as the musical. But I did want to say that another part of the programming is it has an artistic arm. So a lot of the banners that you see on West 125th Street with like Bessie Smith and Ma Rainey and all of that. That's us.
Oh, that's amazing. That's so nice.
Because we consider them gatekeepers, like they're loving, like revolutionaries.
Yes, thank you for shouting out the women.
And we have a new campaign, Learning to Love, where we're going to have visual art by SGL artists, but also short plays curated by Danye.
Love.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, this is so great.
We have some great playwrights that are going to be involved.
Okay, and then when can we look for that?
I believe it's soon. I believe it's like in July. Let me.
Okay.
I should know the date.
You know what? You send me the information, and I'll definitely make sure to send it out and post it and send it out to my email base and stuff like that, and just to keep people up on what you're doing, because I think that's going to be amazing. So now let's get back into where Bjorn was so happy to play, because it's I want to talk about it. We're going to talk about the musical, which that's a little bit of video, so we can put that back up, Bjorn. Yes. So you're the composer and you wrote the libretto for this.
Yeah, and so libretto and producer.
Yes. And so why was it important for you to do this musical? And also the question I have is because I'm just so in awe, and I love the visual of you know, the graphics that was at the beginning. Talk to me about this musical and why you guys put this together, why you chose to write this.
Well, this was a co-production with the Gatekeepers Collective. I think in 2012, it was my first play at the Farthest Time Festival. It's all together. John Martin Green directed my first play, and then he introduced me to this concept of the Gatekeepers and Maladoma's work, who I ended up getting a reading from, actually.
Nice.
So this is inspired by the whole concept of the gatekeeper being this mediator who has one foot in the spirit world and one foot in the physical world. And I thought, wouldn't it be cool if I wrote this sort of like as a superhero, like fantasy musical, where like the gatekeeper is like overthrowing this totalitarian government, and it's like a prophecy that he would be the one to do that, and everyone's waiting for this child to be born, and this woman who's very, very scared of the totalitarian government and being captured and tortured for being out of place or being too seen or too known, has this child who is prophesied to be the one to overthrow the government. So she's trying to protect him and keep him safe, and keep him from using any type of gifts that he may have, because that draws too much attention. But his grandmother from West Africa is like, no, this is the prophesied child, and I'm going to teach him to use his gifts, and he's going to overthrow the government. So there's a built-in conflict between the two. But yeah, so it's very there's a lot of ancestor spirits, that type of thing, because he's guided by ancestor spirits that sort of like keep him on track, because he gets off track. He has the gift to hear these spirits, and so they remind him of who he is throughout the musical. And there's a lot of, so the final production, when we actually get the tons of money that we need to produce this.
So put it out there. That's the theme of the interview. We're gonna put it out there, and it's coming.
Everybody's interested. So it's
coming. The website's down there. If you want to donate, or like if some big donors, the Gatekeepers Collective down there. Go ahead and reach out to them.
$10, $10,000, whatever you feel led. But it's an Afro-futurist XR musical extended reality. So there's a lot of special effects. For instance, the ancestor spirits will be on stage, but they won't be physical people. They'll be holograms. So they can morph and grow into things like when they're talking about how Christianity was and the Bible was used against indigenous people. Like the ancestor will turn into a Bible and morph and grow and fill up the stage. And when they get angry, they grow. And it's like I wanted that type of thing.
Okay. Wow, that's amazing. So for those of you guys who are watching this now and who will watch this later, you can find this on YouTube. So it's under Germono's page, or you can just type in the Gatekeeper musical. It'll come up, and I just showed you a little snippet of it, but the whole musical is there in its entirety. Make sure you check it out, and then keep your eye out for production, because I need to see some holograms. Come on.
And we're
a lot
gonna
of people are not using holograms right now, so let's do this.
Yeah, I found someone that's very interested in. Well, I have someone on my team, Sean. We call a super nerd, but Sean Harrison. He does work with everyone, Essence Fest and all those.
Okay.
But then Three-Legged Dog is like the go-to place for that type of work. They're well known in New York. But we're gonna have a workshop with the Tank in the fall, so I'm really excited about that. To get
That's
the team.
exciting.
Crystal Money Hall is doing vocal arranging. John Martin Green is directing. Dion McLean-Freeney is music directing. Jamal Barnes is a choreographer.
Okay. So you have like a list team.
Yeah, these are fierce. These are fierce.
There's some fierce people. You know,
they don't play.
Yeah. So you are in good hands. No, I love this. I can't wait to see. In the fall, what you guys come up with in a workshop. That's going to be amazing. So
to see it with movement.
To see it with movement. Exactly. That's going to be nice. So speaking of movement, we talking about this Pride weekend, and you and I were talking before we came on about having a party. Al, let's talk about your latest single, Having a Party. Now this song, Having a Party, is your single that was released on June 11th, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's featuring cabaret singer Michael Michelle Lynch.
Yes.
And so this is a single that's going to be coming off of your upcoming visual album called Brown Liquor and Blessed Oil, right? And it's a visual album, for what I understand. So talk to me about your journey in making this album and what can people expect from it. And I want you to talk about Brown Liquor and Blessed Oil, because I'm like, that's some drinking and some holiness going on at the same time.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you talking about brown liquor, I'm thinking Hennessy, Uncle Nearest,
Jim Beam,
Johnny Walker, and then I'm thinking some olive oil on the forehead. So I want a little insight of what this is. So talk to me about the name of the album and all of that.
Well, I'm talking about my journey from the basement parties in the late 70s, early 80s, to giving away my age. But
and you don't look it, okay? Amen.
Thank you. I'm trying. But yeah, from that to being ordained, being a closeted ordained minister, and then the moment that set me free, basically, when our bishop Carlton Pearson started to preach inclusion, it was it completely changed my life. I literally left. I left. I moved to New York, like, I think the year after that. There was no way I could sit there. Like, once you hear the truth, there's no way I could sit there and pretend like what I was hearing was the truth. Like, I didn't agree with it. It was like sandpaper, if that makes sense. It was irritating me.
Yeah.
And I eventually came out to my pastors and had that conversation. Which was so.
That was my next question. I was like, if you want to give a little snippet of that, but because there's a lot of church hurt, so I feel like talking about this is so important, and I find it fascinating and beautiful, and all the messiness that comes with like messy spirituality that we as humans grow and evolve into through the struggles of it, to be an ordained minister and to come out, and then what some churches say as opposed to what other churches say. So that can't be an easy journey. There
are inclusive churches. I didn't know anything about them at the time, but this church, this was the first time I'd heard like faggot and sissy and bull, like that kind of stuff coming from the pulpit.
Oh wow. Okay.
That scared me. That's traumatizing. And like it should not be. That's like a destructive, perverted religion. And I was outed at a conference it wasn't like
so you weren't even able to come out on your own terms.
No, it wasn't like a verbal, like, this person is gay. It was sort of like this prophetess was preaching about how perverse homosexuality was, and she just went off about this, and then I'm on stage playing for her as she's doing this, so it's like I'm already conflicted, but I'm in the closet. And then after she gets done with her spiel, she turns and looks at me. And then the whole audience looks at me. Like you know who we're talking about, right? Like that type of like.
In front of everybody. In the church.
Yeah. It was a conference. It wasn't even a service.
Wow.
So it was like ministers from Tulsa, it was like, And part of me was like, I wanted to crawl under my keyboard and just crawl out of it. I was like, I couldn't, like the fear that I felt.
Yeah.
Even after that moment, because I'm like, that's when I think how do I say this? I think the shame kept me in that church longer than it should have.
Wow.
That's when I was like, okay, I became suicidal. I was like, okay, well, if this is going to be my life,
yeah,
then I'm probably just going to take myself out, because I can't. I knew I was gay. There wasn't like this moment where I'm like, I was going to date a woman or marry a woman or pretend. Like I knew I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
So I was like, I don't want to live that life. And that's eventually where, because people were already talking about, God showed me that you're my husband. And the Lord said, that was already starting.
Oh.
So there's a lot of that.
Yeah.
There's a whole other episode. But I was like, okay, I'm just gonna take myself out. I was either gonna mutilate myself so that there would be no, that would have an excuse. And there would be no. That's how much I believed what they were saying.
It's a very heartbreaking, it's a very painful thing to hear and sit through too, because I'm just so sorry that you had to go through that. And this is why church hurt is real. And it just makes me so angry, when I hear these stories, because I'm so happy that you're here. And the next question I have for you is, from that journey to this bishop that changed your life, it sounded like, but what I want to say is that this is why we should not be condemning God's creations in any form, in any shape, form, or fashion. Just stop it, right? Yeah. Because then you have souls walking this planet wanting to take their own life. And that's not of God. If you're like in church, you're a pastor, or if you're just a person that goes to church, and you have somebody who is in church with you talking about, saying that they want to take their life, then that is not of God.
It's
that's
not.
How I feel. And it just makes me so angry. And I'm so sorry that you went. I had no idea. And I'm just so happy that you worked through that, because look at your gifts and look how God is using you right now. Like with all the things that you're doing, like you're so needed.
Yeah. But I wouldn't care. It was preached. The message was, you are here because of your gifts. Like, you're not bringing us a gift. We're a gift to you. We're showing you how to use your gifts for God's kingdom. So it was completely flipped.
Wow.
And I realized years after I left, like, I was the reason that a lot of people stayed in that church, because the atmosphere had to be there first. And I was creating the atmosphere. That sounds how it would sound, but it's the truth. A lot of ministers of music, organists, psalmists, singers, are same-gender loving, and are the ones that are bringing this atmosphere that people are thirsty for, because they're actually thirsty for spirit. They're thirsty for a connection with God, and those are the people that are bringing the connection to God. But then they have to deal with homophobic, antiquated rhetoric from pastors, and many of whom are struggling with their own sexuality.
That's a whole other interview. I'm going to have to bring you back for part 2. I'm going to bring you back for part 2.
That's why they so vehemently preach against it. They're trying to kill their own demons, quote unquote demons, that aren't demons.
And so you were saying earlier, because we segued into something else, but you were about to say that there was a bishop that started to preach love and from the pulpit in a way that touched you, that helped you. Yeah,
Bishop Carlton Pearson. One of the Azusa conferences. Azusa was like a huge conference. T.D. Jakes would discover it there. All these other preachers. Whitney Houston used to attend. It was like huge. He started one of the Azusa conferences. He started preaching this message of inclusion. Like, hell isn't a real place. You can't put anyone in this place that you made up called hell. Like, all these people that you demonize, homosexuals and everything, there's nothing wrong with them. And it was the first time I'd ever heard anything like that, ever in my entire life. From Lutheran experience to Assembly of God to Church of God in Christ. Like, it was the only time I'd ever heard anything like that. And like, my cells were changing as I was listening to that.
Yeah.
I was like, my mom said, she said one of the services, he looked at me and she's like, he's never coming back. She just knew. She was looking at me behind the keyboard. She's like, he's leaving. And
so your album, okay, so now it totally makes sense when you're saying brown liquor, because there was some brown liquor that you was drinking because you were dealing with the demons.
Oh no, yeah.
And then the blessed oil, like, so for so this album is showcases that journey for you.
Yeah, so the brown liquor part is actually those basement parties.
Which is where the brown liquor was.
That's where the brown, because okay. Before everyone got saved in 1985, like the whole country got saved in 1985. Everyone got saved. Before that happened, like there were like basement parties and drinking and singing and music, and like that's where my musical gift, I believe, was honed.
Mm-hmm.
In those basement parties, and then that transition when everyone got saved. That's where the blessed oil part.
Okay.
It's like I've always been struggling. Not struggling. That's not the right word. I've been always trying to better reconcile my spirit and flesh, my humanness, and my divinity.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think all of my work sort of reflects that. And yeah, I had some brown liquor moments myself.
I mean, I'm not judging. Please, please,
yeah.
Get that brown liquor. Get it. Have a little sip. And so, what do you want people to walk away from when they go to Spotify and they start to listen to your music and once your album is released and there's a visual part of it? What do you want people to walk away with when they see this once it's done? Once you give us this gift.
There's no conflict between your spirit and your flesh.
Mm-hmm.
There's no separation. Like that's what makes you human. There's songs where there's worshipful songs about my experience with God, and then right after I'll talk about sex, and then right after that I'll talk. It's like there should be no sex. There should be no separation because it's all divine.
Yeah. Okay.
It's all divine.
Wow. So you're going to be freeing some people, giving people permission to be their full selves, which I love.
That's what we all should be doing.
Yeah. That's what I love. I love the theme of that. I love the theme. Yeah. I can't wait to hear all that. And then at the end of this, for those of you watching and who will watch this later, we're going to play his video with the music so you can hear some of this having a party from the first single. So that's a treat. We have a treat coming up for you guys. So these interviews are in and out. And the next thing we have is the cherry pick. And so I want to talk to you about your cherry pick. But we're going to play this little blurb video that we have of our cherry pick that Bjorn's going to play. Then we'll get to the cherry pick.
Okay, great.
Yay. So Germono, I thought your cherry pick is just so good. It's a good one. So tell everybody what your cherry pick is. This is a good one. This is a good
Yes, treat. It's called The Cooking Gene, A Journey Through African-American Culinary History in the Old South. It's by Michael W. Twitty. Mm-hmm. So if you've watched High on the Hog, you've seen Michael Twitty. And High on the Hog, I cried. I ugly cried.
I cried through the whole thing. I ugly cried through the whole thing. And I wasn't expecting to.
But I didn't know that he was on the show, but I was like, I guarantee you he's going to have an appearance because this is like his thing,
Yeah, I never heard of him until High on the Hog.
Yeah, but I read this book. I started reading it it wasn't. It was this year.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh my God. Everyone thought it was going to be a cookbook.
Yeah.
But it's like he literally walks through the history of where every vegetable, like okra, corn, like where that comes from, like how our cuisine came to be, like how slavery basically created American, like our cuisine comes out of slavery and the inventions that we created and it's just so much, but it's also like, it's a history of slavery. It's a history of migration, African-American migration through the South. It's a history of food, like, and I knew this, but I didn't know this. Like, I didn't think about it. Like the farmers that they took from West Africa so that they could cultivate the land to grow these crops. And they had to learn how to integrate European cooking into the cuisine. And they brought their African, cuisine into the mix. And it's like, it created I think American cuisine, basically.
Yeah, we're pretty much, our food is their food now. It's like Black culture is American culture kind of thing,
Yeah.
Wow. And so, yeah, and I didn't see, I'm learning so much because Behind the Hog, I thought it was going to be a cooking show. I mean, I don't want to give it away. I don't want to give spoilers away. Mm-hmm. But then I was so surprised and taken aback. And it was such a healing process. I cried through the whole thing. And then when your cherry pick came out, and when I was researching it, I was like, I didn't even know he had a book. Like, I'm just learning so much, and I'm glad that you said that it's I mean, people expect it to be a cookbook, but there's so much history. And so there's so much, it's just so much. My mom's from New Orleans and my dad's from Shreveport. My family's Southern. And so when I think about the foods I grew up eating and my grandmother's cooking, and like I could, when I'm cutting up okra or something, just to know the history of it is amazing. Like there's so many things I didn't know. Yeah,
I learned so much from that book. Like just even cultivating the vegetables that we now have, like these people were brilliant. Brilliant. Like I'm like, what did the slave masters do besides slave drive? Like inventions, building things, like cultivating the land. Like they just came with this knowledge, and like what they didn't know, they figured out.
Yeah.
While they were having the fear of God put in them from the whip, brutalized, and all the other stuff. We're amazing.
Yeah, we're an amazing people. Yes, we are an amazing people. Yeah. Listen, okay, that's a good note to end on. Black people are amazing. We're amazing people. I'm speaking of something. But it's like, before we go, I just want to say this was such a beautiful, pleasant, spiritual interview. Like I never know what to expect with each guest, and I always have a good time. But just your story and just knowing a little bit more about you and the journey of when you were in a dark place to where you are now, and how your steps have been ordered because you all the things that you've been called to do, you're doing. Like you're using your ordained ministry, you're using your music, you're using your writing, like you're in it, and I love that. That's just amazing to see and hear and learn about you. I love learning that about you.
Thank you. And I always need to hear that. So thank you so much. And thank you for, we go way back.
I mean, yeah.
And I remember you emceeing and volunteering to do things, and I appreciate you always.
I mean, you can always bring me back now. I mean, like I can come back and MC some things. I mean, you probably have so many MCs by now, but I can come back. I can come back and make it happen.
Okay, be careful what you wish for, because
oh Lord, see, I'm open. I'm happy. I'm really, it's like I'm here. Just I'm a phone call away. So
I'm gonna put you down.
Okay. Anyway, guys, so those who are watching, we're going to send Germono off, and we're going to play. So don't leave. We're going to play his video now. So you get to play. You can hear some of his video. But before we do that, I want to let you know that my next up guest. Okay. So we're going to wave goodbye to Germono. Bye, Germono. Give me 2 seconds. And then next week, you know how I do them every Sunday, 5 p.m. Well, next weekend, Bjorn and I are taking off. It's the 4th of July weekend. There's so much going on. Some people celebrate, some people don't. I mean, I'm not going to be out there celebrating. That's me personally. I just got things going on. And so the weekend after that is going to be my girl, Susan Hayward. So that's going to be Sunday, July 11th, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to talk about her, just her journey as an actress. She's on the show Delilah that's on OWN. We're going to talk about that because let me tell you something. I watched the show and her fashion, like the clothes. I was like, we got to talk about those clothes, girl. Where'd you get those dresses? So I'm excited to bring her on. And so with that said, it was a great interview. And I'm so happy and excited to see you guys and have you back. And I'll see you not next weekend, the weekend after next. This weekend we have off. And that's it. And so with that said, we're going to play Having a Party, which was released on June 11th by Germono. And you can find it on Spotify, all, Apple Music, all those places where you can get them. You can download it. But here we go. Having a Party. I'll see you guys later. Bye, guys.
Oh, they got y'all. We can have a good time. Give me a bourbon and ginger ale, honey. Okay. Oh, no. You need to put more bourbon in this. You got more ginger ale. Can you dig this scene? Everybody's frozen, looking clean. Don't be holding up the wall. Jump right on in, you'll have a ball. What kind of night will it be? For another drink and we'll see. Buckle up, it's gonna be a ride. Catch you on the flip side. Having a party. 1979. woman in the corner getting down. Jim Beam bottle on the ground. Light me up, I'ma take a drag. See how long this high can last. Get on up, get down tonight. By 1 a.m. you be feeling right. No complaints and no regrets. A night you won't forget. Having a party. Staying home, how I look sitting at home alone. My world to you might be insanity, but being sober ain't the life for me. Having a party, have a good time tonight.